Hi everyone, this is Bobby of Knitter's Niche. How is everybody today? Today is July 18th, 2023. It's a beautiful day here in Northeast Alabama. Actually, it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. I mean, it's like, 90, 91. Supposed to have a heat index of 110. I am going to talk, well, hang on. I'm not going to say talk about. I'm going to discuss. The reason being is if you watched my last podcast, I must have said talk about 20, 25 times. And in the beginning, it was talk about. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some whips. I did talk about, here we go again with the talk about. So let's talk about, oh Lord, I cannot stop saying it. Hi everyone, happy summer. This is Bobby of Knitter's Niche. I'm up here in my bonus room on this beautiful day. It's July 18th, 2023. How is everyone? Hope you're all having a great summer. I know some people that are watching me from across the world are actually in their winter. Please join me and just sit back and relax, knit while I show you what I've been working on. And I hope you'll put in the comments what you're working on. I really get excited when I read the comments. I try to comment on every single one. Sometimes all these comments come in at once and I'm still playing a little bit of catch up right now, but I'll get those done. And I appreciate y'all. So let's go. Let's get this going. We're going to talk about the Alpine Bloom. Just going to follow up from my last podcast number, episode number 16. I showed you the Alpine Bloom that I had cast on, and this is by Caitlin Hunter. And we talked about this the last podcast. They use Spincycle in this pattern, which is your slow, long changing color change in the color work. And my Spincycle yarn had not come in, but it's come in, it's here. I actually ended up getting 2 skeins because I was wrong, and I wanted to tell y'all that too. I was wrong, I do need 2 skeins. So it did come in, and I went ahead and I caked one up. And this is what it looks like, caked up. It's called Angry Birds. Now, this is what it looks like. Well, I'm gonna get the ball band back on here so you can see it. It comes in a twisted skein. Let me get that back on there. There we go. And here it is. Now this one comparatively seems to have more white in it, I think. But I haven't caked this one up yet, so we'll see how that looks. So this is what I'm doing the color work with. Now I was using the linen quill and the oat flower, which was a light cream color. And I thought it's not going to be enough contrast. So I got to looking at what I had in my stash. And I had found some yarn. Oh, it's right here. It is by Gingersnap. It's a Canadian yarn dyeing. It's a couple. It's a Canadian yarn dyeing duo, I guess I'd say. This is called Satin Slip. And I'll show you the color. There it is. So I thought this would go nice. And this is called Satin Slip, and it is a fingering weight. It's 75-25, 75% merino and 25% nylon. So this is what the two is going to look like together. Now here's my dilemma. Here's my dilemma. So any of you that have gone ahead and started the Alpine Bloom, and I'm kind of curious to know if this is going to be an issue, because even on the pattern it says Spincycle is a sport weight. It says right on the pattern, but then it says for the contrasting color, the color work, and then for their main color they said use fingering weight. Well, this is fingering weight. So I've got one caked up already here. And well, actually, hang on, let's do this and I'll show you the difference between the two. So I'm kind of a little bit out of a loss to think the difference in the two, but this is what they said. And I do know that fingering weight can vary in the thickness of the yarn. So this is Spincycle on the bottom, and then this would be my main color up here, the satin slip. And so I went ahead and cast it on. And I'll show it to you here. Now I have not got into the color work yet because I've been working on something else, which we'll talk about here in just a couple of minutes. So I will say that this yarn really, seems to plump up nicely. This is the lace collar. And I had to stop because I noticed that I had a mistake. And so I'm tinking. And what tinking means, you're just putting your needle back into the working stitch, one row below, and putting it back over here. And I'm just going to start at the beginning of that round and redo that and get that going again. So I'm just a little eerie of the two being different weight yarns. And but any of you that have done it, let me know. The color work's going to come up pretty quick here. In the pattern it starts, so I'm going to know right off the bat what I'm going to do. So, but that's going to take a little while to work with because I just got done working with a yarn that is considered worsted. I would say it's a light worsted. So this really went pretty quickly, the sweater that I have on, but we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. So the other thing I wanted to discuss too was, well, oh, I know what it was. Like I had said, my new favorite yarn company is Sandnes Garn. And I found out about this from the Italian knitter. It's a podcast. Her name's Francesca. And she lives in Italy. And her favorite yarn to knit with, absolute favorite, is the Sandnes Garn Lena. And that's what I have knit my sweater with. So we talked a little bit about it last episode 16. And this is it here. Now, the yarn has 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. And I knit my sweater with a size US 6 needle. And a US 6 needle is, I believe, isn't that 4 millimeter? Yes, it is. So this is the Sandnes Garn Lena. And I like it so much. Now it is cotton, and some cottons you knit with split quite a bit, but this one, just, I would say maybe 3 or 4 times. And I will say, if you see that happening with your yarn, please correct that right away. Go back and fix it right away. And just be ever aware and just kind of pay attention that might happen with a cotton yarn, and fix that. It's very easy to fix. Just go back and unknit it and knit the stitch again, and that way you don't have to go back and drop some stitches and pick it up and do all that again. But if that happens, it's fixable, it's doable. So that's my new favorite yarn, and we're going to go ahead and talk about what I'm wearing. It's the Ihla, and I think that's how you pronounce it, ILHA. We talked a lot about it last podcast, which was episode 16. And it is by Sucche. It's Sucche. I think that's how you pronounce her name. This pattern, and follow me on Instagram. It's Knitter's Kniche, KNITTERS, KNICHE. And I'll put a link down below where you can find my Instagram page. I have several pictures of it, little videos of it, of me knitting it. And this is absolutely my favorite, even more so than the ranunculus. And I love love, love, love the ranunculus pattern, and I love this one even more. And part of it, I think, is the great part is the yarn I've knit with too. I started off knitting. I'll stand up and show it to you, and I'm going to put some video in here. This is it. I'll put some video in of me wearing it and moving around, and you can see these are the braids that are down the side. Aren't they pretty? Very pretty. Braids down the side and the sleeves. The ribbing is something really different, and it's the same that's on the bottom, only you do a second repeat of 2 rows. A second repeat down here and just 1 repeat here. And if you look closely, there's little butterflies, see? I call them butterflies. It doesn't really mention in the pattern that they're called butterflies, but you know, there is a similar stitch in the ranunculus. It is not this stitch, because if you look, you can see it is shaped like a butterfly, and the ranunculus is shaped more like a flower. But it's beautiful. And what you do is you cast on, you do a long tail cast on. And you know, I think some people, oh, I need to do a, oh my gosh, I can't even think of what the cast on's called now, where you sew it and so on. Anyway, so a long tail cast on, they're actually knit stitch, every one you do, if you stop and think about it. So she has you do a long tail cast on, and then you're doing your lace, okay? You're doing your lace, and this is based on the size 2. The size also, not the size number 2, but the size also. So this will be different for every size, a little bit different as far as how many stitches that you're working with when you cast on. So this is a little bit different per size, and then you do the raglan shaping here and here, and then you put the sleeves on hold, and then you go ahead and you start the body. But as you're doing the body, which makes it really interesting, is you have these side braids. So you're not just doing stockinette. We know how that goes, round and round. You have these braids, and it's carried through the ribbing on the bottom. The detail in this is beautiful. We talked about that last week, how I really like all these nice new details that I'm seeing in knitting, more and more details for one item. This is packed full. This is packed full. So then what you do, you go ahead and you complete this. But before I completed this, I thought, you know, I'm going to do my sleeves, I think. Did I do that? No, I'm sorry. I did go ahead and complete it because I could see I had enough yarn. Because there's this skein, hello, this skein, and this is what I have left. So I would say I used about 5 3/4 skeins, and let me see what the yardage is on here. I want to say it's 120. Yeah, it's 110 meters, which would be 120 yards. But I used 5 3/4 skeins of this yarn. So I actually have enough. I could do a little bag. Which I think I probably will. Do a little bag. How cute would that be to match this? And I'll take some of these same stitches and put it in there, which isn't hard to do at all. So, okay, back to this. It does not have instructions on to do short sleeves. It has long sleeves. In the picture it shows here, it has long sleeves, and there is no mention on how you do short sleeves, so I'll tell you how I did mine. And this is also on my Ravelry page, my project page for this, in my notes. I say exactly how I do it if you want to refer back to that, if you want to do a short sleeve. Okay, so you are using your size 6 here, and then all of the ribbing, and then this also is the US 4 needle that you're using. Okay, so size 6 needle. You come back, and I did stop and think here. I followed the pattern, and there is a decrease row. I won't tell you where that falls in. And then I went ahead and I knit 6 more rounds, and then I did another decrease row just like the one previously, and then I did the ribbing. Now, and also it calls for Tunisia. Is it Tunisian? Is it Tunisian bind off? What is that called? Hang on, let's see. You know what? I'll just look and see. I'll just look on here and see. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Do you ever do that? Do you ever draw a blank like, and it's gone. It's nowhere to be found. Is I did the one I did for the bottom, and the bottom is knit. excuse me. Knit 2 together through the back loop. Okay, so it's going to be on your right hand needle. Then you're going to push that new stitch back onto your left needle, and then you're going to knit 2 together through the back loop again, which is going to bring it over here. Then you're going to put it back. You're going to repeat that until everything is bound off. And when what you get with that is this nice, fine, beautiful, has a little bit of stretch. I mean, it's not a lot of stretch, but as long as you're, and I did not use this larger needle to bind it off with. I was just careful. Took my time. I usually generally always do take my time when I am binding off and casting on, because when you are binding off, the eyes are going to go there. They're going to go here. They're going to go here. People are going to notice, and I'm going to notice. So I'm very careful about how I do that. Now, let's talk about the neckline. When I was knitting this, before I had bound off, this right here, not the bind off, but here, all of this was sitting right here. And when I knew it was going to draw up, because I'm going from a size 6 to a size 4, which is what the pattern says to do, and it also says you can to use a larger. Okay, what you do is you pick up these stitches. You're going to take your yarn, you're going to add your new yarn, it's right back here in the back, and you are going to pick up all those stitches, and you're using a needle that's 2 sizes smaller, 6, so it's a 4. And you're going to knit 1 row. You knit a row, and then you bind off. And it's also telling you to do a basic bind off. And I thought, bravo, bravo. You know, sometimes the basics are pretty darn nice. So I did a basic bind off, and like I said, I took my time with that, did it slow, made sure I wasn't splitting any stitches, just really took my time, because this was going to be the end. I was going to be done with the whole thing at that point. So I bound off, and your basic bind off, which is knit 2, slip 1 over, and then you knit 1, slip 1 over, knit 1, and just be very loose, a little bit loose, not real loose. And it just, everything, and look at it, it's not tugging. I have enough room. Here's my German short rows in the back here, so it goes up a little further in the back. And the nice thing about this also, it's really nice. Here's my belly buttons right here. Now it said to knit the body 9 inches before you start the ribbing on the bottom, or knit it to 2 inches less than what you want the length to be. Well, I'm not very tall, so you know, I can I'm proportionate though. I'm not real short-waisted or anything like that, so I'm not very tall, so I knew I didn't want it as long, because there are some pictures in here of some of the other Ihlas that have been knit, and they seem a little long to me, especially with short sleeves, and it's a summer top. So I knit mine 7 inches, and then the ribbing is 2 inches. And if you look close, you can probably figure out what it is. I'm not going to say because it's a paid-for pattern, but if you look, you can probably figure it out. But this yarn, let's describe the yarn. Okay, the yarn, it has some weight to it. You know how real inexpensive yarn and all those cotton yarns, and we all have a use for those. Like we like to knit our kitchen dish towels with them, or maybe even a washcloth with them. What's it called? You can buy them, Walmart and any hobby or craft store. I can't think of the name of it. I don't have any handy here. Anyway, they're heavy. Oh yes, well, hang on. I've got a purse that I crocheted, and I showed it last year. I've got it hanging over here. This is the yarn that I used, and this does not have the beautiful feel that this does, and I think it's because of the linen in this, and it also has viscose in it too, and it's just has a coolness about it, and this doesn't so much. It doesn't have that cool feeling. It's heavy. It's heavy. This has a little bit of weight to it, but it has a really beautiful feel to it. And it is my favorite yarn. They are not expensive. Now that's a 50-gram skein, but it has 110 meters in it, and it goes such a long way. So for the size I did, oh, also I was going to tell you too, I cast on for a size 2, okay? In the Ihla sweater, I cast on for a size 2, and I'm knitting and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, this is going to be too much down here. Now, between the size 2 and the size 1, how many stitches difference? There was 16 stitch difference. So I thought, well, how am I going to remedy this? So I went ahead and I put this all on my project page in Ravelry, and you can take a look at the notes. I completed this, and I even did the raglan in that. But then I thought, you know, if I keep going, this is going to be too much. It's going to be too big, too wide. And it's cotton, so I knew it was probably going to stretch, and it doesn't have the recovery that wool does. Cotton doesn't, so it's going to stretch, and it's just going to stay stretched out. I mean, if you wash it, it might bounce back, but as you wear it, it's going to stretch, and it's just going to hang, and it won't be attractive. So here, I don't know if you can see it or not, I did decreases. Now, each one of these twisted sections, these braids, are 4 rows. So each row, I did a decrease on each side of the braid. Not each row, every 4 rows. Yes, every 4 rows. So at the beginning of each new braid, I did decrease on each side to where, so it took till there were 16 stitches gone. So it's really mostly under here. You really can't see. You might be able to tell, all of you with your eagle eyes might be able to tell that I had done that. But it really, I thought, you know what, I'm this far, I've done all of this, and then I got to thinking, I don't want it to bag and hang on me. I want it to be nice. I want it to be the positive ease. But I didn't swatch. I didn't do a gauge swatch. I didn't. But I'll tell you I didn't. I know we all don't do that. So anyway, my new favorite sweater and my new favorite yarn have been a big hit. And I think everyone needs to try this. This pattern, you can do a long sleeve. You can do that with any pattern, though. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. The sky's the limit with these patterns. Once you really get to knitting sweaters and understand how the construction works, you can alter them, change them any way you want. Any way you want. It doesn't take too much for that. Okay, next segment. We're going to talk about new podcasts to me that I have found since our last episode. Now the new podcasts, well, there's one that I've been watching for a little bit. It's called Tuesday Night Chat, and it's with Noelle and Kelly. They have a live stream every Tuesday at 6 p.m. It's an interactive live stream. So you can sit there and ask them questions, and they'll answer your questions, and they'll say your name. Excuse me. And they'll even put it up on the bottom of the screen what your question is. And I have found more patterns to knit just watching them, because Noelle and Kelly really have the same fashion aesthetic that I do. And it just seems like the yarns they like, that I like the same ones, and they just have a really good, what I want to say, a really good pulse on what my age group likes. And actually, I think probably from the 50s to, I don't know, however old the knitters are out there. I guess there's really no age limit, to tell you the truth, but they like this, the texture, they like the lace yokes like I do. And they've done a little bit of color work. Now, you know, I'm doing that Alpine Bloom, and I think I've got to stay positive about it though, because I'm second guessing putting those two yarns together, and I'll just keep going and see how it works and see how the color work stands out. And you know, I had a great question from a viewer on my last podcast, and she said, have you heard of dominant color, the dominant color concept when you are doing color work? And I texted her back and I said, yes. And I said, and thank you, I have had to refresh my memory on that. So I went on YouTube and I searched it. And the color that you want to stand out a little bit more, literally will stand out, physically stand out more, you want to keep that one on your left as you're knitting your two colors. Keep that one on your left. So since this color is thinner, this is the one that I'm going to need to stand out more. So I will keep that on my left and then keep this one on the right, because it just pushes this back just a little bit because it's thicker. Look at that, that's really got some bounce too. Very nice. Okay, so back to that Tuesday night chat with Noelle and Kelly. I would recommend watching that. They're cute as a button. They go to events and talk about the events that they go to. They show you some film from the events. They interview people at these different yarn events that they go to. It's really very, very good. And I had seen it off and on, but I never really sat and watched a whole episode. And I'm glad I did one day. So now I really look forward. You know, I might not catch it live. 9 times out of 10, I don't. But I would recommend that. Again, it's called Tuesday Night Chat with Noelle and Kelly. Another podcast I like, it is called Grizzly Knits podcast, and it's with Tracy, and she has been podcasting every Monday this month in July. And she, you know, I've been keeping up with it, and I thought that is fantastic. Every Monday, once a week, that's great. And I enjoy her. I love the things that she knits, and I love the fact that she pretty much tells you the truth about a pattern. You know, if she hasn't had luck with it, she'll tell you, and she'll tell you what went wrong, and she'll tell you what went right. If she's getting along great with the pattern, and it's not necessarily, and she's not saying anything against a pattern, nor would I ever either. I just like her whole demeanor. She's friendly. Very informative. So that's a new podcast to me. I know there's probably a lot of you that are already watching that. It's called Grizzly Knits Podcast with Tracy. Another one is I just found this 2 days ago, and it was her very first episode, and I thought, why has she not had a podcast prior to this? Well, she says that she has had informational videos out there, tutorials she has done on YouTube. Well, I'm watching her and I thought, wow, I really love, and she's got this pullover that she has just designed. She's a designer. And I thought, I'm going to look her up. And I hope I pronounce her name, and you're all going to probably know who it is as soon as I say it. The name of her podcast is, I think is it Ysolda? It's Ysolda Knits. So I thought, well, I'll put this on hold while I was watching her podcast, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna go in and pull up Ravelry and pull it up, and by goodness, she did the Musselboro hat. She was a designer, and she had such a great. So I haven't finished watching that, but I will. I'll finish watching that because I was so interested in her. Her demeanor is very friendly. she has a lot to say, very informative, just a very relaxed. You can just tell that, you know, she enjoys knitting. I don't know how to explain it. I just have a really, really good feeling about her not every time, because this is the first time I watched her. I was going to say every time I watch her. But I'm going to continue watching that podcast. Episode 1 was just uploaded on YouTube 2 days ago. So that would have been what? The 16th of July. And that was episode 1. So that's Ysolda Knits. And like, again, she was the designer of the Musselburgh hat. Okay, here's the one I was talking about earlier. An Italian knitter, Francesca. I like her. I think her suggestion to watch had come up a time or two in the past, and it did again. And I thought, oh, you know, she started talking about what she was knitting and how she really loves Sandnes Garn Lena yarn. And I thought, I do too. So I started watching her, and well, no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say I do too, because at that point I wasn't that familiar with it. But now I do. Let's put it that way. Now I do, because she really turned me on to it. Because she'd have another project she'd bring on, and she'd say, and here's what I'm knitting with. And it would be the Sandnes Garn Lena yarn. So her name's Francesca. She's in Italy. I would definitely check her out. I'm not sure exactly what day her podcasts are released, but I went ahead and subscribed to her, so I'll be getting notifications every time she puts one out. But we have the same aesthetic, a little more, a little more fitted, not much, but just a little more fitted items, a little detail to them. And some of hers are basic with beautiful detail. Beautiful construction. So I'm going to try some of the patterns that she's been knitting lately. So those are my, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 new to me knitting podcasts. New to me, and I like them very, very much, and I would recommend them. Now, there was one more I'm going to talk about, and we really have been communicating a little bit on Instagram. And her name is Tassie Studios, and Tassie lives in Oregon. Episode 10 is the one that I had watched, and there's episode 11 too, but episode 10 she filmed it. She lives in Oregon, so you know you're going to have a lot of the sloping, so it looks like the back of her home must really slope down and must come way up in the back. And she has this beautiful deck looking out into this beautiful view of Oregon. And she's talking about her beautiful knits and her love for knitting and all these different yarns she talks about, different hand dyers that she's talking about. And I've learned about some new yarns I had never heard before from her also. She has such a nice demeanor, very friendly. But anyway, I would recommend Tassie Studio. We have just hit it off grand, just grand. One more thing I didn't talk about. See, here I go. I do this every single time. This was an acquisition that I had made. And I'm sure there's quite a few of you that are familiar with it. It's a knitting book. And this knitting book is called 250 Japanese Knitting Stitches. And this is it. This is, actually the first one was written by Hitomi, I think it's Hitomi Shida. And these are her actual charts are in here. What this book is about is Gayle Roehm, R-O-E-H-M, Roehm. She had lived in Japan and studied the language for many years and has knit from Japanese patterns for most of her knitting career. Gayle teaches at knitting gatherings around the country and occasionally publishes her own designs. She is the translator of this book. So there's a few comments on here, and then one of them is from Vogue Knitting, and it says Gayle Roehm's translation of noted designer Hitomi Shida's second stitch dictionary represents a sea change in the English-speaking world. Think of it as opening a window into the way another culture designs and knits. And Shida's stitches like calligraphy, fluid, beautiful, and complex. And then we have someone else on here that it has helped to make American knitters more fearless. You know, not to worry about some of these charts. So what I'll do, I'm not going to open it up, because if I open them up, it's going to actually show you the chart right next to it. So I will do a little video of me just thumbing through where you can only see, you know, maybe I can do. What is some of those? And they're just beautiful. And some of the stitches, as I have looked through these charts, it tells you what they are. They have different names for them than we do on some of them. So it is really a learning book. It is a book of study, of studying different knit stitches, really studying them. They have different sections, open patterns with leaves. Let me see, I can show you some of those here. Let's see. There's just, oh, look at that. Just beautiful. And she actually goes in and tells you how you can incorporate those. Well, here's some little samples of some stitches. Yep, I can't show you that page. There's some more. These look to be like the little easier ones. And you know, that would be something great to try. I was going to take a look here and see. Oh, there's a knot stitch, a twisted left decrease, twisted left double decrease, a knot stitch right with the slip knit. And all their little diagrams here, there's a lot to them. Let's see. So it's a matter of getting used to something new. And I really want to try some of these. I was even thinking of just doing some swatches. Now I thought, well, how could I do some swatches and then make them useful? Well, I could maybe do them the size of a dishcloth. Would I use them as a dishcloth? I don't know. Maybe face cloth. Or maybe, I don't know, if I did a small one, it could be like a little mug rug, like a little coaster, something like that. So I did want to tell you about this. If you have used this, please let me know. Put a comment down below, and put in the comment down below which pattern that you have tried, and if you had any trouble with it. But honestly, I think with anything new, it's just a matter of practice. And when you want to learn something new, you have to be willing to practice, and you have to be willing to opening your mind up and kind of thinking of things in a new way. So this is an acquisition I made that I'm real excited about. I do know, I'm trying to think of her name. Her podcast is A Loop Through a Loop, and I know that she has some patterns on Ravelry. I'll put her name down here so everybody can see, and also down below. She has a couple of hat patterns, either 2, maybe 3, that use these Japanese stitches, and they are just so intricate and so beautiful. So beautiful. I can only hope to knit something like that someday. But her podcast is A Loop Through a Loop, and I will put her name down below here, because I just can't think of what it is right off the tip of my tongue here. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of what it is. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate all of you. I love doing this podcast. I can't believe a year's gone by already. I seriously cannot believe a year's gone by already. It's gone by quickly. This is my 17th episode 17 in a year. But if you want to look at some of my Vlogmas, I did one just about every day in December of 2022, and filming them and editing them and getting them uploaded and getting them ready to go. That is a lot of work, but it was fun. Now, will I do that this December? I don't think I'll probably be able to do it every day, because I can see my December is already kind of filling up with different things. But I will definitely, do a vlog kind of style in December, because it's so much fun, and it's just getting into the season, with the decorating and taking you with me if I go Christmas shopping or something like that, little segments like that. I'll certainly still have knitting in there for sure. I don't know if I'll get by a yarn advent this year. I did last year, and that is what I made my anthology throw out of. Let me grab it here. I'll show it to you again. Hang on. It's right here. My anthology throw. This is what I used my last year yarn advent that I bought. It was from Southern Skeins, and this was DK. I've talked about this a million times. So, yep, this is it. And this is by Curious Handmade. Her name is Helen Stewart. An anthology means gathering of flowers. Ology means gathering, anthus means flowers. So anyway, I don't know if I'll be getting yarn advent, and let me know down below if you're getting a Christmas yarn advent, holiday one. Let me know if you're going to be participating in that. Let me know which one you think would be good. This was DK, so I would kind of like to maybe get a fingering weight one if I do. And last year I also made my own yarn advent. And you can see I talked a lot about that in my Vlogmas episodes if you want to go back and take a look at those. Because as we get closer to fall, we're going to be getting in that mood. We're going to be thinking about doing Christmas knitting, Christmas gift knitting. So sometimes it's kind of fun to get in that spirit by going back and watching some Christmas Vlogmas videos from different knitting podcasts. So, okay, well, I'm going to let you go, because I'll just carry on and on. I will. I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you. Go out there and knit the day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.